What's going on, guys? Alex here, and we are back for another video. This is the next video in the series of everything that I know, and today we're going to talk about making offers and getting contracts. Now, if you haven't watched the first video in the series, I recommend you do so. I'll leave a link in the description. It's going to give you the reason I'm doing all this and the premise to everything. So in this video, we're just going to get right into it. Making offers and getting contracts. So what I do is I use a spreadsheet to make 2 offers when it comes to wholesale and lease options and a sandwich. I'm going to show you the exact spreadsheet that I use and the tool. It's an app called Autocrat, which actually creates the letter automatically, saves me a ton of time. I then email that letter to the seller and then follow up in 1 or 2 days, or if we scheduled it for a certain day, maybe they are on vacation, maybe they don't have time until viewing that next week, then we'll get on the phone, or I'll call them, or I'll email them, or text them on that day to follow up if they received the offer and if they had any questions. And then we go over the questions, and then from there we decide whether we want to book an appointment to go view the home and actually get the actual contract signed. Okay. So let me show you what I mean. This is the spreadsheet that I use. So I first put the seller's info here, and then I have the numbers here. Now I used to do these as an agent as well, so that's just the agent spreadsheet, but we are going to use the investor spreadsheet. All right, so let's say the seller is asking $300,000, which in my area, again, $300,000 is kind of an average. And this is a conventional sale here, so I just have these numbers already. They automatically create. In my area, it's about 5%. Closing costs are roughly 2%. Off asking is about $9,000. So $300,000, and then I have here the total net that they would. I'll show you what this looks like in the letter. I put the square footage, just mainly in the repairs. If 40 means it needs a lot of work, 10 means it needs little work, and this is just for the wholesaling offer in case I want to do that if the house needs work, or if we determine that that's the best option for them, they want all their cash now. And here's how I create the wholesale and lease purchase option and the sandwich option. I call it a sign back and stay in. Credit that to Chris Prefontaine and the Smart Real Estate Coach family. All right, so $300,000 house. How I get to an offer with the wholesale and lease purchase is I usually do about 5 to 7%. All right, so that's what I offer them. Well, I'm sorry. I offer them full retail, but this is what I offer the buyer. Okay, so I raise it about 5 to 7% because the buyer is always willing to pay more on terms than if they were able to qualify for a loan today. So this is how I come up with the numbers. This automatically raises it 5%. You can see here 1.05. So I have an idea as far as what I want to put this at manually. And I put it at 314.9, consistent with this number. The term is always going to be 2 years. This gives plenty of time for the buyer to get qualified for financing. Usually 12 to 18 or 18 to 24 months is what the report comes back as far as how much time they'll need. So I use 24 months automatically. The down payment deposit is generally going to be about 5%. All right, so here's what 5% comes to with this number, and we just use even numbers to make it simple. So $15,000 is what we're expecting from a buyer. Again, this is example purposes only, how we explain it to a seller. So a buyer's going to come in with $15,000 down. Now, what I used to do is split this 50-50 with the seller. So I would collect $7,500 my fee. Seller would collect $7,500 their portion as well. What I eventually started doing is, in my state in Massachusetts, the most a landlord can collect when they're renting out their property is first, last, and security. So that's 3 months in total. So what I found is that instead of splitting it 50-50, the 5% of the option deposit, is I just offer them 3 months total, because this ends up being less than the 50-50 split, right? So I ended up earning more this way. As you can see, this is 60% of the option deposit. So that's how I explain it. I said in Massachusetts, as you probably already know, the most you can collect as a landlord is first, last, and security. So that's generally what our sellers are happy with. Would that work for you? Right? And then now I just negotiated 3 months of the option deposit. So they're collecting $6,000, okay? Which leaves me $9,000, all right? And then this here is the first month's rent. So I'm just using, I'm assuming their PITI was under 2,000, or if it was 2,000, then we'd use this number here, okay, 2,000. Now, I found a way to negotiate to also keep first month's rent, okay? And the way I do that as a tip is by reminding them that mortgages are paid in arrears. So we're in October now. Let's say that we found someone for November 1st, right? The seller doesn't have to pay that November payment until December 1st, which is when they will start receiving payments, okay? So if we found a buyer for November 1st, then you remind the seller mortgages are always paid in arrears. So for the month of November, you don't have to pay that until December, which is when your payments will start coming into you. Does that make sense? Right? That's how you explain it. And what you just did was keep first month's rent for yourself. So now I'm earning not only $9,000, but I'm earning the additional $2,000 up front. So that's $11,000. And these add up, guys. So you want to be sure you get that scripting right when it comes to keeping first month's rent. And depending on your state, if it works out for you, then just offer them 2 to 3 months rent up front. Hope that makes sense. All right, so that leaves a due-out financing at $299.9, right? So the seller's getting $6,000 up front. The buyer price is $314.9. They put down $15. That leaves this much remaining at financing once they're ready to get qualified with a bank. All right, and so this is what the seller's going to get. They've already collected $6,000 up front, so that leaves them a total net of $305. Now look at this compared to the total net if they worked with a realtor, right? With a realtor, they're paying $15,000 to a realtor fee. They're paying closing costs. They're paying usually $9,000 off asking, so general number $270. They're saving $35,000 in this scenario with the wholesale and lease option, wholesale and lease purchase option. And you can see here I have the profit centers. So my net here is $11,000 because the 9 plus 2 equals $11,000. All right, and you need to know your minimum profit standard, guys. As you can see here, my minimum profit standard for an AO or a wholesale lease option is $5,000. As long as I can make $5,000, I'm willing to pursue this deal. All right, in this case, I'm making $11,000, so this is good. You know, this works for me. Now the question is whether it works for the seller, right? So that's what we have to present. Now for the sandwich option, what I usually do, so this option here, I talk to an investor on my market and see what their minimum standards are. Unless you're ready to stay in deals yourself and you know, making payments yourself, then you're going to want to find out what a good deal is for an investor in your market is. And for me, a minimum was $50,000. So as long as the investor that I'm going to refer this deal to, if and only if the seller takes the stay-in option, then I'm going to make sure this ends up being at least $50,000. Okay. Now, this doesn't include debt pay down. All right. So mortgages have obviously each and every month when you have a mortgage, a portion of the principal pays down. So over time, that's going to be more equity once you get to the to the cash out, right? So this here, you can see here the profit center is only $47.9, but that doesn't include the debt pay down. See right here, without pay down. So when you include the debt pay down, it's going to be like an extra $15,000 to $20,000. This is going to be a $60,000+ deal. All right, just want to make sure I made that clear. So price to seller, I usually do 5% discount, and then the term's going to be longer. I start with 5 years. Down payment to the seller is 0. Desired cash flow is $300. So the payment to them is going to be $17. You can see here these are much less favorable than the wholesale and lease option deal. But still, a seller might want to take this option if they're out of state, if they want no ties to the property at all. They'd prefer this option because it's the headache-free option, right? Versus this option here, they'll net more, but they're dealing with the buyer direct. They'll deal with a default if the buyer doesn't pay them or the buyer trashes it or moves out. They're dealing with it. In this case, we're dealing with it. So we have to make sure that we have enough equity in it for us that we want to deal with it, right? Hope that makes sense. So this is how I come up with the numbers. These are general numbers, guys. This doesn't have to be exact, precise. It really depends on the seller situation and what they have. You want to cater it to that. But if you don't have much to go by, these are great numbers. This is how I do it. This is a great way to put it together. All right, so 5% off. I keep this standard 5 years. I'm willing to take 3 years. That's the minimum for a stay-in option, but I start with 60. Down payment again 0, and then the desired cash flow at 300. And this is how the numbers end up working out. So what happens is the difference between this option and the conventional sales, that they'll save $15,000 in their pocket. All right. And the profit centers, payday one's the $15,000 up front that we'd collect from the buyer. Remember here, versus in the AO option, we share some of that with the seller. So this is why we only collect 11. Payday 2 is the $300 a month times the 60 months, so that's going to be $18,000. And then this payday 3 is the cash out, not including debt pay down. When we include debt pay down, this is going to be more like $25,000, maybe $30,000 cash out. Okay, so that's the profit center there. And that's really it. That's how I create the numbers. That's how I create an offer to a seller. And then I go here to the letter data. I go to Autocrat, open that. It takes some time to load. And then it's going to create a, well, let me see if I can actually pull it up. It's going to create, I have it run, and it's going to create this here. And I'll show you what that looks like. Yeah, so here are the seller options. This is just if I'm only going to do a wholesale and lease purchase option, I do this one. But most times it's this one. And then if I'm mailing them, I have the mailer right here. So that's what I named it. That's what the form looks like. These are the tags, right? So I have the tags within the sheet. See these tags here? That's how I create the doc. And then this Autocrat automatically creates the form based off the tags. And then next, it saves into a certain folder. Next, and then I go ahead and eventually I run it. All right, and then where are we? Yeah. So here's what an Signback option looks like. Here's what two options look like. So yeah, that's basically it. Those numbers are gonna go into this letter here. I usually don't mail this. Again, I just email it. And this is a difference between a conventional sale. So look at this. I mean, when it comes to higher end properties, this was in Medford, higher end property, then the savings are going to be much bigger, right? Honestly, guys, sellers in expensive markets, they love this idea. I have very little issue getting properties under contract, like $1 million homes. I've gotten a $1 million home, a $1.7 million home, a $2 million home, I believe, $2 million home, and many over 500,000, right? Probably close to like 8 to 10 of these properties. The problem is they're really tough to sell, right? Because the person that's going to buy these properties on a rent to own or lease purchase is not going to be a high-end buyer most times. It's usually within that, like the median range of your area. That's going to be a good fit for the buyer side. So I think you're spinning your wheels unless it's a very, very, very niche. Like if you have a really good mortgage broker that specializes in high-end buyers, and they can give you some good referrals, right? But it's really tough to sell a high-end property. But the numbers look great to a seller, right? They're saving over $100,000 on the wholesale and lease option. They're saving $32,000 with the sandwich lease option. I just haven't had any luck selling the high-end homes. And I don't know many people who have. Even people that have been doing this all over the country that teach it, they also struggle with the high-end homes. I don't know anyone that's consistently closes high-end homes with this strategy. Okay, so just something to think about. So you're not going to have too much of a problem getting them under contract. It'll probably increase your confidence. I remember the first time I got a high-end home under contract, I felt amazing. You know, it was a $1 million home. The owners were, they were actually developers. So I was making good contacts with successful people, meeting successful people, and learning a lot in that side of things, and building my confidence, right? I was able to get a contract with a $1 million home. It was pretty cool. Problem was selling it, right? So I made it non-exclusive. After like a few months, I wasn't able to do it. They ended up selling it for a discounted price, so it worked out. But I didn't get paid on it, obviously, but I'm just letting you know that high-end homes, it's going to be pretty easy to get under contract. Not easy, but it'll be a good practice for you. Maybe I should say that, good practice for you to start building your buyer system. See if you can crack one of these. Who knows? It'd be a great payday. I got ahead of myself there. Where are we? Yeah, so this is basically what the options look like with that one. This here is just the Signback option. I just do the wholesale lease option based off the conversation on the phone. And yeah, that's what I email. So that's how I come up with the numbers. That's how I create the document. Then I email them. And then follow up. Usually once I email them, I text them. Hey John, just letting you know hey John, pleasure speaking with you. Just letting you know I sent the options. Let me know if you have any questions, right? That same day I text them. And the reason I text them is because it's another line of communication, all right? So let's say that we scheduled a follow-up call 2 days from now, and I call them, and they don't pick up. I can now text them because we created a text change saying, "Hey John, tried reaching you. Let me know. I'm just curious if you were able to go through the doc, right?" And it just creates more of a relationship when I text them. So that's what I found is helpful. And then yeah, once you get on the phone with them, there's always common questions, some common questions for you. I might do a different, I'll just give it to you now actually. Common questions can include, what if they trash my home? How long will it take? And what if they trash my home? What if they default? All right. So what if they trash my home? You want to be sure that you come across. So use principles. Don't use scripting with this. The principle here is you're dealing with the buyers. You're not dealing with renters. All right. So renters are more likely to trash the home than buyers. Renters only put up first, last, and security. Buyers put up 3 to 5% of the purchase price. Buyers want to own the home. They take over all responsibilities, all the utilities, everything. Renters don't, right? So that's the key premise there. So they're much less likely to trash the home. Could happen, but if it does happen, then if it's a wholesale and lease purchase option, then the seller is responsible for the default. But again, you want to just make sure that the buyer is less likely for it to happen. But you don't want to say anything that's not true, right? I never tell a seller, oh, that's never going to happen. It's a risk, right? It's a potential risk, but the likelihood is very low, and here's why. That's how you want to answer that. How long will it take? So sellers want to know, how soon will this buyer qualify with a bank? How soon am I going to get my money, basically, right? How soon am I going to get my proceeds, my equity? And with this one, you want to, again, give it back to the buyer. So it really depends on the buyer that we put into the home. I'll know more once we find the right buyer for the home. But in general, it's going to take about 12 to 18. Sometimes 18 to 24 months is when you can expect to cash out. All right, but again, you want to premise that with, let me go find a buyer and find someone who's going to qualify in the least amount of time, and then we'll know for sure based off the qualification, based off the report that we get back from Paul Ritter at my credit team. And that allows you to take the next step. So that's how you want to use that one. And then what if they default? Basically, what if they move out? What if they, basically it's again, what if they trash my home, or what if they don't pay me, right? What if they don't qualify within the time frame? I usually tell them they have 3 different options. The first one is they can call me. If it's a wholesale and lease option, they call me, and we do it again, collect another non-refundable option deposit and split that with them, and find someone who qualify maybe in a short amount of time at that point. They can either take the house back and decide to sell it outright at that point, and in which case they've had someone live in the home, pay their mortgage, pay all the utilities on it, and prices tend to go up, so hopefully the home is appreciated by them, or more likely it has. And or they can take the house back and decide to rent it out, right? So basically, you want to let them know that their options at that point. It is possible. Again, the likelihood, you want to stress that we'll know more once we find the buyer, right? So you want to get onto that next part where you're searching for buyers, you get the contract signed. It's contingent upon finding the right buyer for it, and then these questions will get handled based off the report. All right, so those are common questions. There's more questions, but you want to go over any questions that they have. These are what they'll usually ask you. and then determine if it's a good fit to book the to go see the house. Right? Very rarely do I get a contract signed over the phone. Just hasn't been my experience. They want to meet me. They want me to see the house. Now, in a wholesale and lease purchase option, I don't necessarily have to see the house. In a sandwich, I do, because I'm going to be managing it, or my investor's going to be managing it with it. So I'm going to meet with them at the property, or just have them meet the seller. But wholesale and lease option, most times they still want to meet with me, and I have a higher likelihood of getting it signed if they do meet with me. All right. What I started doing was actually doing video offers too, which is pretty cool. I'll probably save that for another video. All right. But to keep this video short, this is all about making offers, getting contracts. Again, just to recap, the spreadsheet that I use, I showed you how to use that, how to create the letter, to email it to the seller, and follow up, and then common questions, and then deciding whether you're a good fit. You basically just ask them, so is this something that you could potentially see yourself doing, or would you like to take the next step? And then you go out and see the home. All right, I'm kind of losing my voice, guys. But yeah, I hope this video was helpful. If you have any questions at all, leave them in the comments section. Anything you want me to cover. Again, there's a lot of nuances to this, to what I'm missing now. I'm just giving you the kind of the 10,000 foot view here. And if it's helpful, be sure to leave a like. Let me know if you have any questions. I'm kind of repeating myself now. Thanks for watching, guys. Be sure to look out for the next one.